Hello, I'm Cosmic, and today we're going to be diving forward into the magic-filled dystopian cyberpunk future and have a first look at Shadowrun Online, which is currently in development by Cliffhanger Productions. Originally a pen and paper RPG, the Shadowrun franchise has had several video game iterations over the years, from the SNES to the most recent release being Shadowrun Returns on the PC. The Kickstarter-backed Shadowrun Online is a full Unity 3D online game that is fully cross-platform, allowing you to play on Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS and more. Now please do remember that what you are seeing here is a very early build. The game is still very bare bones at the moment. Many of its features have yet to be implemented, so we'll talk about what's in the game at the moment and then we'll talk about its upcoming features and the plans for the game. Similar to its recent predecessor Shadowrun Returns, Shadowrun Online is played from the top-down isometric view. The game is a tactical turn-based strategy, similar in design to the recent predecessor, although somewhat simplified in its UI design specifically for the touchscreen device users. However, it still remains as tactical as ever. In the Steam Early Access version, you have access to 4 single-player missions, which is a small prequel to the campaign, and 1 multiplayer map that is essentially currently a showcase of the game's core gameplay. Now I have to say at the moment, while there isn't that much to do, the gameplay is solid. Missions are difficult and they do require thought. Multiplayer is fun but limited. Each of your Shadowrunners has essentially 2 main weapons. This could be magic and a shotgun, or a gun and a melee weapon. Speaking of weapons, each weapon has a set of active skills that can be used once the requirements are met. For example, a shotgun ability may require the gun to be fully loaded, or a melee ability may require you to be a certain distance from the enemy. Multiplayer is very limited at the moment. There's currently only 1 map available and it's only 1v1. There's no team gameplay as of yet. Certainly look forward to that being implemented. What it's got at the moment, it's certainly piqued my interest. I don't think, if you're looking for meat in a game as of yet, I really wouldn't go buying into the early access as of yet. But let's talk a little bit about where they're going to go with Shadowrun Online. Let's talk about what the planned features are. Some of the things that they're planning to add in development are things like class-free character creation, so you'll be able to create your own Shadowrunner and basically build a skill set and build that you want to play as. There's no classes, you can build your character the way you want to play. They've promised quite a high selection of visual customization options. They're going to be adding lots of weapons and items for you to loot and use. There's going to be co-op and single-player mission gameplay, so you'll be able to play with your friends or lead a team yourself. When you want to play solo, there's going to be that option for people who like to play solo. There's going to be an option for people who like to play together. They're going to be adding special levels, which will be called dynamic security alarm levels. So depending on what you do in that mission, you may trip an alarm, which will make the mission more difficult, or you can possibly try and shut that alarm off in time. So there's going to be things like that, interesting gameplay features within missions that you're going to have to react to. They're talking about PvP duels and PvP missions, so it's not just going to be a case of team deathmatch. You're actually going to have specific missions to do in PvP. So they were talking about things like competitive time trials, things of that nature, to really make sure that PvP remains fresh and interesting for people who just don't want to spam team deathmatch over and over. One thing that interests me about the game specifically is that the way that they're going to implement online play in terms of the overall story arc. Their goal is to, as they say in their words, take the classical MMO structure and mix it up with a dynamic world experience. I know, and you're thinking, what does that actually mean? Well, what it means is that story is going to be layered, and it means that you're going to have a personal story and you're going to have a factional story. The factional story is going to be based off what the collective player base does in terms of the quests that they're given. Now, for example, if your faction is working for a specific corporation to take down another corporation, and another faction is working for the enemy corporation, if you sabotage that corporation enough and you win in some form, then that's going going to shape the story, and that's going to shape what quests are available next. In terms of your single player, or at least your personal character experience, it depends on what you do, which quests you take, which Shadowruns you take. It's kind of trying to create a living world, and I understand that it's quite an ambitious goal for them, and it's a little bit complicated in what they're talking about in terms of how they're going to implement it. It's not quite clear how it's going to turn out, and it certainly will be very interesting to see how it's going to turn out. I'm skeptical on some of the things that they're trying to do, and it will be very interesting to see if they pull it off or not, and I am all for them pulling it off, because I think that it would be very interesting to see in terms of the community, how the community interacts and how everything kind of comes together. But I am, as ever, always the skeptic, and I do worry that the way that they're trying to implement it with chapters and the way that they're going to section off zones for certain people and certain progression will actually end up leaving players quite isolated from everyone else. But hopefully they don't, and hopefully it does work and feels fluid, and it feels like you are part of an overall community rather than just playing single player in an online experience. So overall, I mean, I think it's definitely one to watch. I'm very interested to see where the game goes. I will be covering it as it goes further into later beta stages, and then obviously doing a review once the game is fully launched. But that is a first look at Shadowrun Online. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.